Meghan Markle is a bit of a Meg-alomaniac. That is what you get when you watch part 2 here of her interview with Emma Grede. And it's just so wild to me how deluded Meghan is on so many levels. How much she just thinks we should all be in an insane asylum with her, supporting her self delusions about her success and everything. And it's just so incredibly revealing about Meghan's true personality, true goals, true motivation, which I think actually rhymes very much with Emma's last name, which is Grede. Meghan is in it for the greenbacks and nothing else. So we are going to go into part 2 of this interview today because it's always important to actually look at what's being shared and what we know is true and not true and evaluating the Meghan Markle gaslighting yet again. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary, so hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back. So we will not do a long intro here, but I will say I actually filmed part of this before and then totally forgot to hit the record button. So I had to do it again. And guys, like the more I listen to it, the more crazy it sounds, the more honestly disconnected from reality Meghan sounds. And to me, it seems like it's no wonder she didn't work in the royal family. She's too egotistical to listen to anyone other than herself. And even when Emma tries to talk from time to time, Meghan could not look more bored. So let's get into the reaction to part 2 of Meghan Markle's interview with Emma Grede.
There are so many comparisons right now, right? It's like people are saying you're the next Martha Stewart, you're the next Gwyneth Paltrow. So 2 questions. How do you feel about that? But also what's going to set this brand apart? Because you're in a very, very different time right now. It's a different culture. I think consumers are super, super wise. So, I want to ask you those 2 things. How do you feel about it?
That's a great question. And I like this question in particular. It's like, what sets your brand apart? And Meghan hasn't shown what sets her brand apart. I have no clue what makes As Ever different than anything else on the market. And that I feel like is a huge, huge issue. Like we need to know what sets Meghan apart because she has numerous competitors. She has people who are well established in the field. What makes As Ever and her as a business owner different than anybody else?
I think that's very flattering. Those are incredibly successful businesswomen.
Meghan Markle is not one of those women yet and probably won't be if I'm going to give my honest opinion.
So I don't take that lightly. That means a lot if there's any comparison made in that regard. And I also think it was really important to me. I remember where I come from, right?
Again, not answering the question, meandering around it. It's very annoying.
So I knew that I wanted things to be reflected in the same way that I put an outfit together for years, high-low. I knew.
Okay. Meghan doesn't do high-low though. Her shoes are Aquazzura. Her suit apparently is Ralph Lauren, probably cost $5,000. Her earrings that she's wearing probably cost $30,000 or something. Like they're expensive. I can't remember quite how much they are, but they're expensive. The bracelets on her wrists cost probably upwards of maybe $500,000 or something. And you consider her rings and everything. So this idea that she does high-low is a complete and utter lie. It's hogwash. She was walking around in that series in a Loro Piana outfit. Loro Piana is very, very, very expensive. Meghan Markle is gardening in her Loro Piana slides. Very, very expensive. So this idea that Meghan is invested in high-low is just complete and utter hogwash. It's complete and utter BS.
Knew I wanted this brand to be masstige, and to come out of the gate with something luxury didn't make sense to me. So the price point itself, with nearly everything being under $20, was key. I think that's a differentiator.
But not within the field she's trying to be in. Now, if you're trying to do something like makeup, like my favorite mascara probably costs $40. If you could give me that same mascara for under $20, I'd be super duper interested. But Meghan Markle is taking something that we can all get at the grocery store for super duper cheap and putting a premium on it. So yes, she's not going quote unquote the luxury route, but at the same time, it's luxury. It's still luxurious because it's at the highest end of the price point you would expect. And to me, that's problematic. That's really problematic to me. And it's completely unfair of her to go, well, I wasn't trying to get into luxury, but it's like, but you were, and you are charging again more than your competitors are. You're doubling the price of what your competitors are and giving, I would say, either the same quality or lower quality and quantity than the best. The thing is, if you're going to, let's say, I would be willing on the off chance of getting the best jam ever, paying $20 a jar. It's quality that matters, not as much the price point. Meghan has to produce the quality to justify the price point of whatever she's doing. And that's the thing too with luxury even. There was a big report a while back that Christian Dior was paying like $50 for their book totes that they charge $3,000 for. Now, that might have been a little bit of an exaggeration, but that was sort of the headline that came out. And so it's like they're paying $50 for something, yet they're charging $3,000 for it. So you're obviously not getting the quality that they're promising. And in luxury, you can require or, spend that much and justify the cost. So like if you invest in something from Hermes, you're most likely going to get your money back if you resell it. Louis Vuitton, the same thing. Chanel, the same thing. But if you go with Christian Dior, generally the stuff resells for less. And the same thing goes for most of the things from Gucci and YSL and those other companies. Like there is a certain level of where luxury is not worth it. That's why I love going to Bicester Village and going to the Dior shop, because Dior generally is not really worth it in the long run in terms of, I like their clothes. I think their clothes are best. I don't have any clothes from them, but in theory, I like to window shop. So if you go to Dior and you get, let's say, something from them, it benefits you to go to Bicester Village and save 40% and buy something new that's like a previous season or whatever, rather than going into the store and spending that extra 40% and getting something where at the end of the day, it's still probably going to be worth that less than 40% because Dior just generally does not keep its value like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, and those sorts of things. So again, this is all things that factor in here that Meghan's not acknowledging in the slightest.
Never sacrificing on quality, being engaging in a customer service manner, I think is really important. But also, the show reflects the spirit of what I ultimately want to put out in the world.
I will have to say though, as somebody who is her customer, the quality was not there. The customer service was abysmal. So in that respect, the brand sucks. And that is my personal opinion. That was my personal, though, experience. Like, it's one thing, a lot of people complain about the brand, but they actually don't have anything from the brand. As having something from the brand and having experienced the purchasing process and shipping process and everything like that, at this point, I can tell you it sucks. From personal experience, I can tell you I paid an extra $20 to get my shipment there faster, and it did not. It still took 10 freaking days. Even sat out in the rain because nobody told me to ride because they gave me the wrong tracking number. So again, Meghan Markle's whole premise here is false because there's nothing behind her brand that has good quality assurance on any level.
I think is really important, but also, the show reflects the spirit of what I ultimately want to put out in the world. And though they're not the same thing, and by design, look, the show and the brand are not named the same thing.
Yeah.
That's dumb. That is really, really dumb. And she says, what I want to put out in the world. Well, what is that, Meghan? Because I don't really know. And you don't need to put anything out into the world. This idea, this narcissistic megalomaniac idea that she has to put something out in the world is just simply not true. You don't have to. A lot of people could actually be massively successful on YouTube or in podcasting or anything and actually choose not to be because they're like, well, I don't really have anything to say, or, well, I don't really want to put in the effort, or, well, I don't really feel like this is my calling, and have a great impact without having to go, I want to put something out into the world, because she wants all of us to love her. She wants to be worshiped. That is her goal. And everything she wants to be is that she wants it to be worshiped. And I will say, from a business perspective, having two competing brands is idiotic. They don't cross-reference. And she even talks about this. They don't really cross-reference. And it's like, why in the world would you have a show that comes out the same time as your brand and not have them cross-reference each other? At no point in the show does she ever say as ever, as far as I'm aware. And especially, I know per positive, because I watched the whole thing, there is no point where she points out what her products are going to be. That's dumb. That's dumb. The whole existence of your show is to sell the things that are on your show. If those things aren't on your show, why in the world should I buy anything from you? Seriously, it's insane how bad that is.
Smart, by the way.
No, they're just not. They complement each other. They can talk in the same conversation, but they are not the same.
Emma, like, going along with that makes me really question her, because that's a terrible thing. Like, they exist in the same universe, but they don't really talk, and they kind of talk, but they don't talk. It's sort of a terrible thing, because you can do that, I think, once you've established something pretty well, and there's a place and an opportunity to grow organically. Meghan is forcing growth. I mean, this year, basically, she has vomited content and products. She just vomits all over the place for the entirety of 2025 so far. There's very little strategy. It's just blah. And that's a big problem. There should have been a connection between the show and having her products on the show so that people are encouraged to buy them. Because the thing is, Meghan Markle is selling products, but she hasn't really told you how to use them. She has done nothing to show you that she even uses her products, guys, except for the spread, which is not jam like she keeps calling it. We have zero evidence she has used a single one of her products. We have not seen her use any of it. Why in the world should you buy it when the woman who makes it doesn't even use it? It doesn't even create videos to show you how to use it. I mean, we did see her use the flower sprinkles, but that was about it. It wasn't her flower sprinkles. I'm sure she got it from somewhere else. Big glaring issue. When somebody doesn't use their own products, run screaming, because that tells you they don't really care about them. Shortbread cookies. Like, even when she went on Drew Barrymore, she made fingerprint cookies. She didn't tell us, oh, we're making this through my shortbread cooking recipe, so you get that bit of that shortbread. No, she didn't do any of that. The only thing that she has done, and the thing that she remains obsessed with, is the spread, jam, whatever. Nothing else. Nothing else from her company. And that should send you screaming for the hillsides, because if she doesn't use it, why in the world should you?
And so knowing that I have a vehicle to be able to share the things that I love to do, and then a place where you can go and buy them if you don't want to necessarily make them on your own, feels like a very smart way to do the full and complete storytelling of what I'm after.
But it's not. She's not telling a story, though. That's kind of the problem. There is no story, Meghan. I've watched your stuff. I've consumed your stuff. There is no story. You just basically told us, well, I went backpacking through France. And all I can think of right now is the Friends bit where you go, I went backpacking through Western Europe. And if you're a Friends fan, you know that reference. But that's like the sense I get. There's no there. Like the storytelling. What storytelling? There is no storytelling. There is none. You're just throwing out business buzzwords. Like, there's a whole thing, like the hero's journey within marketing. Like, I did a little bit on that when I was working in a company one time, and they were explaining to us how, you want the customer to be the hero kind of thing. And so you almost send them on a hero's journey to get the product. And it's a very, like, a high-minded idea, but you see it factored into various products and those sorts of things. Her whole brand is horrifically managed, horrifically advertised. It only exists and only is, quote unquote, successful because of the man she married and the man's family. That's the only reason. That's the only reason any of this has been anything. She would be laughed out of the room anywhere else with this mess and a disaster of a brand.
So, I feel flattered by the comparisons, and I feel excited that I'm sharing things that are important to me and how I would do things in my own home, and that I hope people translate that to theirs as well.
And this weird thing where she's like, oh, I want people to like make it in their homes. But Meghan, you didn't give us recipes. You did not tell us really how to make anything. I watched your show. I learned nothing. So why in the world? Because you're not a cook. So why in the world? And she actually gets this here. Because again, guys, we had watched through about up to like at least here of this content. And then I didn't press record. So we had to do it again. But Emma admits she's never done anything that Meghan showed in her show. So yeah, because it's hard to do because Meghan doesn't really give you decent directions. And so nobody followed anything. And wasn't Meghan not supposed to do a stand and stir show? I'm still so confused. What is her show?
No doubt. Given that
I like the no doubt.
No,
I love it. It's great.
I mean, I really do. I watched the show. I feel like
did you make
very
anything?
Clear. I did not make anything. I'm not going to lie.
Do you cook?
I am so.
So this is sort of funny. Do you make anything? No, because Meghan didn't inspire anybody. She had a handful of fans who tried things. But honestly, most people didn't try anything because there wasn't really anything to try. Why in the world would I make lavender scented towels for myself or a guest? That's just dumb. That's a waste of time and energy. Like, most people don't have time to do that. That's just ridiculous. And Emma, who admits she's actually a huge cook here, guys, has admitted she didn't do anything she saw on Meghan's show. I would not be surprised if Emma didn't really even watch it. Not surprised at all in the slightest. So let's keep going.
Such a cook. Like, such a cook. But I cook, it's like I don't have a lot of time to cook, but
Yes, I
I take time off. Like Thanksgiving, the 3 days running up to Thanksgiving, I cook for 3 days straight.
Do you do Thanksgiving
and
now that you've been here?
Literally, it might be, to me, it's like,
which is really funny. Do you do Thanksgiving now that you're here? Well, yeah. Why wouldn't she? And also, Meghan ordered out Thanksgiving last year because, she was too burdened. She had 80 staff members or 80 crew members on her show, and she was so overburdened with work that she couldn't make Thanksgiving. If Meghan really loves to cook, like Emma here, she will make time in her schedule to make Thanksgiving, because that is like the ultimate cook's dream, or it should be, or about to be in some ways, is Thanksgiving. And so if you are a huge cook, I would imagine Thanksgiving is kind of an exciting thing for you. I'm not a cook, so I don't really care, but that would be a big thing. But that is not for Meghan. And it is for Emma, who actually is very busy, who actually has a lot of people on her staff and things to do. A huge discrepancy comes to the forefront.
Christmas practice.
But it's also like a Sunday roast in the UK.
Exactly. So I'm an absolute expert of it. But I do like, like an English American mashup. So it's like, I do
Yorkshire
all
pudding.
of the, I do like a Yorkshire pudding and I do a roast potato, but of course I do, like sweet potato pie and I do like the green.
Okay, and curious here, Meghan doesn't mention what she and her family do for Thanksgiving, which gives me impression she doesn't do that much for Thanksgiving. She doesn't care that much. And Emma here, you can tell she's actually very passionate about Thanksgiving. She knows what she wants. And like Meghan could come in here and go, oh yeah, me and Harry, we split this. But no, Meghan doesn't want to hear about what Emma does for Thanksgiving. Meghan wants to talk about what Meghan does for Thanksgiving. Meghan doesn't even want to talk about Thanksgiving because I don't think she likes the holiday. I don't think she likes to cook.
And, a ham and those type of things. But I don't get to cook nearly as much as I want. But I look at you and I feel like it feels like you're getting so much joy out of this. But it's an interesting thing when it's something that you love so much, but there's also huge ambition around it. And I wonder, when you think about the way you set up this partnership, is that structure going to work for you as you go forward? Do you think?
This is a very good question, but I don't think Meghan's super passionate about it. And that's sort of the problem. It's like, she's not really sharing something she's passionate about. Like if Meghan was doing a online tutorial about how to do her fancy cursive, I think that would do well because she genuinely has a passion for that.
There's a time.
She just doesn't genuinely have a passion for so much of this. And it really shows, which is why she keeps calling her spread jam. It's not the same thing, Meghan. You should know that. You made the product. But because you're not attached to it in that way, you keep calling it the wrong thing because you don't really have an investment in what you actually created to sell to people. And that's a big problem.
Time you're going to have to go out and raise capital.
Potentially. It depends on what we want the growth trajectory to look like. But I think, and all the contracts and logistics surrounding it have really set up what the future can look like together.
It'll be interesting to see again where Netflix goes with this. I have a sinking feeling that if this is not successful, Netflix will probably move on. Although Ted Sandros is sort of weirdly obsessed with Meghan, I still don't understand why people are so obsessed with this idea that she's going to make them a crap ton of money. I'm like, oh, come on. She's not. She's not. She has success based on the man she married, and that is it. That is it. And that will allow her to coast for a while. But the problem is she's not a hard worker. And Netflix has to know that. They know that at this point. There is just basically, I think, ego keeping her there. This is so incredible. If she went, again, guys, on Shark Tank with this product line, with everything she's done, they would eviscerate her. They would. I mean, they would do it nicely, except for maybe Mr. Wonderful, but they would eviscerate how poorly this business has been managed. And that's really inexcusable. She has all the resources in the world to make this good, and she stinks at it. But at the same time, too, I think Netflix is driving a lot of it. They also don't know what they're doing in this particular space. And yeah, that's factoring in for sure.
And being mindful of the movements of that. There are a lot of surprises still with the series that we'll be able to share later this year. Obviously, season 2 coming. But
what surprises? There is no surprise in this space, Meghan. This idea that she's coming up with something new or interesting is no, we can all buy whatever you sold at the store. I got a bunch of different, I should do actually a taste test tomorrow, maybe, because I got a whole bunch of hibiscus teas, lemongrass teas, and peppermint teas from different groups, just from the grocery store that I could test and compare to hers. And so I just look at all this and I just say, there's nothing that sets Meghan's brand apart and nothing that sets her apart except for the royal title. And that's it. That's all it is.
But I think what's really exciting about it is it's the evolution of the partnership that we've had with Netflix for so many years to now say we're doubling down in the growth of me as an entrepreneur and their
growth of me. Very self-obsessed. What about Harry here? What about the partnership with Harry? Oh, no. It's just about me. Just about me.
Support in that chapter. So it's huge. It's great. But yes, I mean, as we continue to grow, you might be looking to expand certainly globally. And if there's a raise that's involved in that, then I think we'll be in a really good position to do that.
But she didn't really answer the question, what makes her company different? She did not answer that question in the slightest, getting back to something earlier. She cannot define what makes anything she puts out there new, unique, or interesting. And that is that's going to be tough for her in the long run. She really has to work on trying to make her products unique enough and interesting enough without the Duchess title to actually justify growth. Because at this point, I just don't see growth being a huge part of the future.
Yeah, no doubt you will be. I have absolutely no doubt in that.
Thank you.
When you think about the failure rate for first-time entrepreneurs, does that ever concern you? Have you even let your mind go there?
I do not think about failing.
She should think about failing, though. So when I watched this earlier, I came to this conclusion, especially because there's another bit here where it's like Meghan sounds like an automaton. I'm not worried about failing. I don't care about failure. I don't see failure. I'm not scared or anything. I mean, she does kind of backtrack that a little bit, but she sounds deluded here. She sounds completely and utterly deluded. I have faith. I have faith. I'm going to win. I'm going to succeed. It's going to be great. And there is a way where you do have to think that way somewhat. But the scary thing is here, especially as an investor, is that there's not enough there yet for her to have this level of confidence. She does not have a Grand Slam product. There's no Grand Slam product here. She has not had enough metrics to go, I'm not worried about failure. She should be worried about failure. She is barely off the ground. And so she needs to work every single second of every single day trying to make this thing successful. And everything she puts out there is half-baked. The Instagram strategy is bad. She constantly uses the same pictures for her profile and as ever. That's lazy. That's lazy. She still has not shown us at all what the future products are going to be. I don't know what they are. They'll probably come out maybe later today. But how am I supposed to get excited about something as a consumer if I have no clue what she's putting out there? Because I can't plan. I can't plan if I don't know what you're putting out there, Meghan. It's just so bad. And she talked earlier in the previous video, we mentioned that she was talking about, oh, I did my newsletter. I'm like, Meghan, I'm on your email list for both of my work emails. And I haven't gotten any newsletters except for the ones that you sent in April. So there's no newsletters, honey. What are you talking about? And again, this goes back to Meghan lives in this complete delusional fantasy. She's not really there. She is sort of meandering through all of this kind of in happy peppy talk. And yes, you do have to sort of talk yourself up. There's challenges of being a business owner, but she's not here.
No.
You're not scared of failing.
Is anything actually a failure?
Yes, it is a failure. You can't actually fail. This is one of the things I found most interesting because I'm like, if you're not acknowledging that something failed, how can you get better? And there's a quote which I love, which I first heard in Criminal Minds called, experience is the most brutal of teachers, but you learn, my God, do you learn? And that experience both means success and failure. That experience encompasses both of those things. And sometimes you have to recognize something as a failure. Archetypes failed. Confessions of Female Founder failed. Yes, you learned something. Yes, there were great experiences, but she can't actually grow anything unless she acknowledges what did not work. And that's the thing. You get a sense of a woman who's completely oblivious or blind or just ignoring the fact that she's failed in things. And if you can't acknowledge failure, if you're just going, well, it wasn't failure, it just was something that didn't work out. And there's some wisdom in that, I will admit. But at the same time, I think when you combine that with somebody who I think is completely deluded, then you kind of end up in a bad spot because there's one thing we're going, okay, I totally recognize something was a failure, but I appreciate what I learned from that experience. I don't consider it necessarily a failure, but I understand that that's what it was. She will never say archetypes failed. Confessions of Female Founder failed and flopped. She will never admit that. And that is something, maybe she admits it to her staff and she should. I hope she does because you cannot grow unless you admit you failed in something. For some people, for addicts and stuff, they have to hit rock bottom and maybe go to jail or something like that in order to grow. That's the only way you kind of get it through your head is to fail that badly. And it's like, okay, I'm going to take this failure and capitalize on and learn from that and go on to great success. Meghan, again, sounds completely oblivious to realities by going, well, I'm not worried about failure. It's not going to fail. It might fail. And you don't have enough metrics at this point, and you're not driven enough for me to truly believe that it won't fail. Because I would actually believe that in certain people if I could see it that they put every single piece of sweat equity they have into their business. everything they are goes into their business. Meghan talks a lot, but I don't see that reflected in her business. And so I don't believe her when she says, oh, it's not going to fail, because she seems exceedingly lazy to me. So I get the impression that it's more likely to fail because of that. And again, she's not really aware of that.
Ultimately, because you're going to learn from it no matter what happens. But no, I feel confident in what I've been dreaming up for so long. I feel confident in the partner that I have. And I feel really proud of the team that I have. So that's not an option.
It's not an option.
No.
I love that you say that's not an option, because
people do say that, but they are wildly driven. Meghan is not driven. She's not a driven person. In certain ways, she is. I think she was very driven to marry Harry, but when it comes to hard work, Harry was an easy catch. That's the thing. He's kind of a dim dude. He was very wowed by her when he really shouldn't have been, and he just did not look any deeper. When it comes to what Meghan's doing, I think there are people who said, and like I thought about my business too. Hey, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to make this thing successful. There were a lot of things that went into it that I couldn't control. But at the same time, I poured hours of my time and energy into it. I would, for a while when I was working full time, I would start my day at 6 or 7 a.m., get dressed, go to work, which was a 30 to 45-minute drive. I would pick up breakfast from Starbucks because I didn't have any time. I would order lunch out at work because I didn't have any time. I would go home at 5, and that would mean generally I would get home sometime after 6. I would feed Pippa. I would walk Pippa. I maybe do a couple other things. Then I get down. I film a video. I take it out. I edit the video and I put it up. And I would get to bed trying to manage everything sometime around, if I was lucky, 12 a.m. And if I was unlucky, 2 or 3 a.m. if I had a long day. Every second of my day went into the channel. At lunch, I'd be working on video ideas. If I had a thought while I was working, I'd write it down. Meghan, you don't feel that from her at all. You don't feel that sun up, sundown mentality when it came to business, working 24 hours. She's not there. And so as a result, her notion that it's not going to fail. But I don't see her being driven enough for it to not fail. And again, there's a lot of other factors. I could have worked all that time and not had a success. I worked though that much because the channel was gaining traction. I'm like, okay, if I keep putting and driving myself into the ground, it can grow and grow and grow and grow. That's why I did it.
it's just such an intense narrative around everything that you do. I can't imagine not being a bit scared. Like, I'm always scared when I start something, but nobody's even watching me.
That shows that Emma's normal. Meghan comes across as an emotionalist automaton here. She's like a megalomaniac. I'm going to be fine. Everything's perfect. It's good. I'm a duchess.
I get to fail in a corner on my own with a glass of wine. Okay, like, thank God nobody was
Meghan loves wine. She's a wino mom.
watching that, but it's very different for you. And so I'm surprised that you say that.
I'm not saying that there aren't moments where I don't feel scared.
Mm-hmm.
Of course you do. But as I've continued to say to myself, and whatever I'm going through, my faith is greater than my fear.
Oh, I hate this so much. Okay, so faith is greater than my fear is basically a Christian reference saying that your faith in God is greater than your fear. So your faith in God in any given situation should be greater than your fear because he's sovereign. Greater than your fear because he is sovereign over any and all circumstances. And so regardless of what the circumstance ends up, and that could even be death, he is sovereign in all of that if your faith is strong. So your faith is stronger than your fear because of your faith in him, because he is greater than you are. Meghan's faith is in herself. In this analogy, she is God. So she has faith in herself, ergo she'll succeed because she's great, wonderful, perfect, and amazing. I mean, think about that. My faith is greater than my fear. My faith in myself, my faith in my business or whatever is greater than my fear. No, your faith should be greater in something else other than you. When she portrays herself as God, number one, that's sacrilegious. Not a surprise though, because she's not really religious. But number two is you can delude yourself if that's your opinion. You can delude yourself into wasting thousands, if not millions of dollars on an idea that doesn't work because you can have faith in anything. You can have faith in anything. But what if your business idea sucks? What if you waste your children's college fund pursuing an idea that simply does not work? There was one guy on Shark Tank, and it was one of the first seasons. And so I may have told this story before, but I remember it so vividly because he had this idea And he had drained all of his kids' college funds, his retirement fund to pursue this idea. And they were just looking at him going, dude, please, please save your family. And they even talked about it as he left. They're like, that is the dark side of the American dream, which is that you waste something on an idea that is not a winner. Lori Greiner calls it either winners or losers. That was a loser idea. And especially because it was sort of at the time that smartphones were becoming really, it was like an iPad that you could have in a doctor's office to distract you. But especially now looking back, especially when you watch it now, and everything we have on our phones, it's like that idea was probably going to work in like 2000, but it was like 2008 or 9. And we were at the precipice of a massive increase in what our phones were capable of. And his idea was already obsolete. And that's the danger there. Don't just have faith. You need to have some faith, yes, but there are so many circumstances that are within your control and out of your control that factor into business. And having your faith is greater than your fear should be something that is the domain of what you have in your faith life, not in business. Your faith in your business is greater than your fear. Well, again, you have a situation where your business might suck. And so your faith in your business doesn't really matter because your business sucks. And so it's not going to be successful. There's such a danger there. It's a horrific example for Meghan to give, horrifically awful. And I feel like perpetuates the dark side of the American dream. Because remember, guys, this is a woman that has millions upon millions of dollars to fall back on. If her and Harry, if the worst comes to the worst, they can still sell their $16 million mansion, maybe for $20 million, and make $4 million. She's not in the same place as you. Her delusions are because she has a million fallback plans. And she has endless amounts of money in some ways to make that happen, whereas most people don't. And so this is a dangerous notion to put out there for most people.
I believe in myself. I believe in the team around me. I believe in our potential for success. And is that the same metric that someone else is putting on it? No. For me, it would have been a huge success and not a failure if I was selling my homemade jams at farmers market.
That's what she should have done. I actually proposed, guys, if you've been watching this channel for a while, I propose that she starts small and get success there in that small field at home and then move on elsewhere. And actually, it would have been best if she sold it where people did not know it was Meghan. That way, she could truly, truly test if her products were good because she gets unfiltered feedback because they think somebody else is making it. And that is what she should have done because that way she could test and refine with true feedback and like not have all this competing narrative. And again, I want to go back to my previous point there where she's like, I have faith in myself. So her faith in herself is greater than her fear. That again, she's putting herself in the place of God. She's a megalomaniac. That's exactly what she is. And a lot of business owners and people are, but I come back to this idea that she has a different relationship with reality than most people, and that does generally tend to set you up for failure. You can be a megalomaniac, but you also need to be aware of reality too, and that's where she doesn't have it.
And I'd gotten a cottage license. I applied for that in the county of Santa Barbara, where you can literally go and yes, I was like, great, you can make the goods in your home and sell them.
She should have done that. She should have done that because then again, she could truly test the market. She hasn't tested the market.
That would have been a success for me. So someone else's sense of what that looks like is not necessarily what mine is, and that will continue to grow. But no, I don't see the possibility of failure.
Bad sign. That is a bad sign in some ways. You should always be aware failure is an option, and you should always be striving endlessly to ensure that doesn't happen. If she just doesn't think, oh, it's not going to be an option, it's just not going to happen. I get, again, the sense that this is not somebody who's has a strong grasp on the reality of the situation.
Not when you can learn from everything that you've done.
The way that you speak about both imposter syndrome and failure, because these are two things that, again, uniquely are in the kind of language of so many female founders. And they're real for so many people, and that's fine.
And so the question is, why aren't they real for Meghan? That's the real question. Why is Meghan the anomaly? That's not necessarily a good thing.
But I do also want to demystify the idea that like we have to feel that we have to go around feeling really scared and we have to believe that this is not a journey for us. And so I wonder what in your life and your history has got you to the point where you can feel like that.
Great question. Great question. And Meghan doesn't really answer it.
Well, I think words matter. And I think certain words and terms become very topical and trendy.
So, like calling your relatives racists, we're well aware of how that would play in 2021, Meghan, let's be honest. And so you utilize that as a weapon against your in-laws. Yeah. Glad we can all agree on that.
And they just become part of the
Oh,
vernacular.
yeah, I believe that.
Right?
Like, next it.
Right? And at a certain point, you go, why do I keep reinforcing this idea? Because it's topical, right? And I ultimately believe the more that you can change your thoughts, you're going to change the things around you.
So you're a big believer in mindset?
You have to be.
Yes.
I think as a female, as any founder, but as a female founder, you have to train your mind to literally be so focused on what your goal is, to be
The thing is, though, Megan's not all that focused, and it comes across in her brand. She is focused when it comes to money. That's where her true focus is. I want to make a lot of money. But the rest of it, not so much.
so, as I said in the podcast I was doing, laser focused on what your intention is.
Her podcast failed. It failed. And she's talking about laser focus. She's too distracted, though. Like when you see this year, we have a vomit of content. We have a podcast, a TV show, a brand, an Instagram, like so many different things, a new name, like all these things crammed into one. And it's just vomit, diarrhea of content. And so it's like explosive and it doesn't really have a strategy. And that's kind of a mess. And so it lacks a consistency and a vision to me, because this is not a vision. It's chaotic. It's chaos. It's all over the place. And if she had started with one thing and grew everything sort of a bit slower and had them connect better, she would be so much better off.
There isn't room for a tremendous amount of self-doubt with that. It will be there. But when it appears, you have to train yourself out of it.
You have to train yourself out of it. And there's something to, I think there's a driver in doubting yourself sometimes. So there is something to the wisdom there that Meghan is saying, is that you can't let people, I mean, I more think about what other people say, because it's like, I knew I wanted to do this. I knew there was a way for this to be successful. Probably this was still more early in the days of royal commentating and those sorts of things that were, on YouTube. And so when I started, it's like, I knew what I wanted. I knew I had a vision, and I knew I was sort of hitting like an empty spot within the market, you could say.
Out with that. It will be there. But when it appears, you have to train yourself out of it.
But for me as well, more of the doubt came from, like, you could say my parents, because my mom was like, well, why don't you do something else? So she's like, and my dad was like, totally like, this won't be successful, whatever it is. And now, because it's been massively successful, my dad tells everybody every time he goes on a business trip about this. And so he's like, I got you some more followers. He's so sweet. And it was something, though, where you had to prove it was successful, and then kind of people start getting on board. But you do have to kind of, I think it's good, though, to have people to question you. That's where I'm going with this a little bit. It's good to have people that go, hey, this isn't working. Because if, let's say, and I did put this kind of burden on myself, if a royal channel didn't pick up, I would drop it after, let's say, a month or a couple of weeks. Not because it couldn't be successful at some point, but because I don't want to waste my time, energy, and effort on something that's just not getting traction. So if I did it for a month and got 5 subscribers, probably not the best idea to continue to pursue it. And so you do have to have, though, I think it's healthy to have a little bit of self-doubt. Meghan comes across very disconnected from reality, going, I'm totally fine. No self-doubt whatsoever. I train myself out of it. It's not there. And you do have to have a little bit of that as an actress, but it also comes a bit from being a narcissist.
And I shut it down.
Yeah. And I don't think that it's helpful to indulge some of the language that is going to be self-limiting. I don't think that helps anyone grow. And
I mean, what language, though? It would be nice if she said what language, because I don't feel like feeling imposter syndrome is limiting. It's only your mindset that's limiting in some ways. So it's like, I don't feel like, identifying yourself as having imposter syndrome is like all that bad if you just go, yeah, I do feel that from time to time, but that's okay. We're just going to continue to move on. Maybe that's just my personality type, but I don't really put labels on myself anyways. Meghan is obsessed, though, with labels. That's the thing. Meghan is obsessed with labels. I just don't really factor labels into anything. So it just doesn't mean that much to me.
I don't think being fear-based, yes, being risk-averse, very valuable. Being clear and realistic about the landscape that you're walking into, very helpful.
She's not in anything. So that's kind of funny that she's saying that, because she's risk-averse, but at the same time, she's, again, not putting in the groundwork to make things successful.
talking yourself out of it or talking yourself into negative self-talk is not valuable as a founder.
But sometimes, again, there is a good thing to having somebody who holds you accountable going, is this working? Is this good for you? Because I've shared this before, but I did a YouTube boot camp, which I wasted my money on. But one of the things I found really interesting is that some people had been on YouTube for 8 to 10 years and were not gaining any traction. It's like, okay, there's a couple things here that should be told to you. Number one, is this really worth it? If you've been doing this for years at this point and you're not, let's say, making a decent amount of money and you wanted it to be a career, it's probably not going to work out for you. You're either not presenting well on camera, the audience isn't there, or you're in a deeply saturated field, people aren't interested. Like there's so many factors that go into that reality, and that self-doubt is, I think, good because then you're not wasting time. Meghan can have no self-doubt at all. She has a lot of money to throw at her problems. Anyone else, that's a dangerous thought to not have any self-doubt in some ways. Now, in some ways it's not, but I will say in some ways it is, because you could be, again, spending a whole ton of your life doing something that's failing. And wouldn't it be better to spend time with family and friends than working on a failure that's just never going to be anywhere? It's like somebody who's been trying for decades to be an actor and keeps waiting for their big break and waiting and waiting and waiting, and it never happens, and they waste their life in an industry, and then they're bankrupt or don't have any money years down the road, and they could have been very successful as a professor or a librarian or something, and they chase something where at some point they should have just given up. And there is wisdom, I think, in saying, this didn't work. Let's put this aside and focus on things that do.
How have you trained yourself to do that? Do you think that comes from your background as an actress?
Could be. I mean, when I was an auditioning actress,
this will be very interesting. This will be very interesting because Meghan reveals something here that I'm not sure she quite acknowledged revealing.
And this is well before Suits. You have to think,
because that was the only thing of hers that was successful. The only thing that was successful, because she was a crappy actress, and she sort of admits it here.
At that time, there were certainly not a lot of mixed race parts.
Really?
No.
Really?
No, there weren't a lot of, if I was going in for an audition, it was either, you have to remember, this was a very different time than it is now.
I mean, I somewhat agree with that, but in some ways I don't. I think if you're a good actor, doesn't really matter in some ways what race you are. Yes, sometimes they are picking a particular race for a character. They're looking for that in particular. But sometimes too, they're just looking at a whole bunch of actors who sort of fit the mold that they have. And if you're good, you might get the part. But Meghan acknowledges here that she's not good.
It was Girl Next Door. That was typically blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and a certain look. But because I'm half white, I would also be submitted for those roles. And then if it was a character that had any sort of ethnicity, there was always a bit of a edge to those characters, but I'd be submitted for those roles. And I also, to a lot of people in casting, they thought I was Latina. So I share that because, and I've shared this before, it was a numbers game. If I'm only up for 10 parts, that could be 10 no's. But if I'm up for 30 parts, because I can fit into so many different rooms, that could be 30 no's.
So did you catch that there? Meghan says, since I could fit into so many roles, I still got 30 no's. That basically tells you Meghan was a crummy actress. Because if she could fit, if she's so nebulous, if she's a chameleon, if she can fit so many different ethnicities because she's ethnically ambiguous in some ways, then by happenstance, she should actually get more roles because she can be Latina, she can be Iranian, she can be Greek, she can be Maltese, she can be basically anything because she fits into so many different categories. She can be white, she can all these different things. I mean, I think it would be hard because of the texture of her hair, kind of leans more into the African American realm. So that'd be a little bit harder. But in so many ways, she fits into every category. So as a result, should she not have gotten a whole heck of a lot more roles? Because she does fit into every category. The reason she didn't is because she was not a good actress. Just pointing that out.
That is a lot to chip away at your self-esteem. That is really hard. And
especially because she, I'm sure, thought she was a fantastic actress and she wasn't getting any parts.
And I think so much of that, I went through my chapter of self-doubt as an auditioning actor and beyond that. And when you're so consumed with what everyone around you thinks of you, that can be a really hard way to live.
And she says that. And Meghan is still, though, consumed about what everybody thinks of her. She's consumed by it endlessly. That is why she claps back in the media constantly. It's because she's consumed by what people think about her. She still is. She has not gotten past that at all. She's still absolutely obsessed with the public's perception of her. Meghan has self-delusions, and she wants all of us to live in that delusional fantasy with her. It's almost like she believes we should all be in an asylum together that she runs, because she has this vision of herself, but none of us agree with it, or at least a large portion of the world does not see it. And so I think actually her obsession is more that we're not going along with her delusions, and she's struggling with that. That is her big struggle, is that we don't believe it. We don't buy it. And she's obsessed with trying to get us to do that.
So I think as I've gotten older, certainly my 40s, and as a mom, you want to set the example for what your children are going to think about themselves.
And I imagine her children will be pretty messed up, to be quite honest. I don't want to speculate too much about the kids, but I don't think they're going to have a very healthy upbringing. They don't hang out with any of their family, any of their cousins, anything like that. And so there's not, let's say, a strong foundation for her children in their way there should be.
And that you can't have an imposter syndrome around.
No way.
You have to be so authentically the role model and the example of confidence, self-forgiveness, kindness.
Which are qualities she does not possess. She does not possess those qualities. Like, you can almost see the crazy eyes going, believe me, believe me. She doesn't have any of those qualities. And so the problem is, too, is that she puts a persona on at home, too. I think her real personality comes out more, but Meghan is constantly trying to fit a persona. Again, I go back to, she's portraying here a completely different persona than she was with Jamie Kern-Lima. Now, granted, again, they're different podcasts and different styles, but what she could do, if she cared, is actually present herself how she wants to be seen publicly. Like, pick one persona. She's trying to pick 20, and that's the problem. Is she's trying to please everyone in order for her desperate self-need to be liked and loved and worshipped by the people. And as a result, she generally pleases no one. And that's why people don't think she's authentic, because she changes her personality and her looks and everything all the time to try to hit what she feels like people are interested in.
Fun, all of those things.
I don't think Meghan Markle is fun. I don't think she does not strike me as a fun person.
You can't fake that. You want to model that for them. So
she fakes it all the time. I almost would guarantee you she fakes it a lot.
All of that really shifted in the past 6 years of becoming a mom for me.
So you weren't authentic before? You weren't any of those things before? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I really understand that. And I think that you're completely right. Are there practices that you have to tune out self-doubt? Like, are there things that you do in your day?
Oh, I wish I could.
So Emma is actually reformatting the questions she asked before. So she's actually a fairly good interviewer, because she's done this at least twice now, where Meghan didn't really answer the question, so she's re-asking it. And this thing of, what your practices are, of course, Meghan doesn't really have an answer.
I could say that I meditated every day, right? No, I don't. And then when I say to someone, like, I don't have time to meditate, they say, well, you should meditate twice as long.
Well, she should be praying. You wore a bracelet, Meghan, when you converted to the Church of England. You wore a cross bracelet. So should you not be praying? Oh my gosh, the Queen would be rolling over in her grave about, I need to meditate. Meghan's so new agey. Again, that she is at all interested in anybody's zodiac sign should tell you everything about her.
And that's really
true.
cute that you
is
need to do it twice. I would love to take my own advice and say meditate. I don't. I jump right into things. I will always phone a friend when I'm.
So it's like, I almost feel like when she's like this, is like thinking like, I don't know what I do, because she doesn't really have that normal metric. That's part of the problem. That's why she can't really answer the question, is because it all comes down to narcissism and delusions. And so she can't really help anybody with it, because the way she does it is not really how most people would react. She just comes across here as exceptionally abnormal. She's an abnormal person. And that comes across, and that's not necessarily always a great thing.
I'm having moments, and I'm very fortunate to have a lot of female friends that are founders who have been through some version.
Are you calling on them?
Of course.
Yeah.
She's also calling for their private jet. So I believe Meghan, of course, does friendships in order to get something out of them. So these friendships are not friendships of like real ones. They're ones of convenience and ones of opportunity. Meghan wants to be a female founder, so she finds other female founders to befriend. And that's how she's done things her entire life. She moves in circles based on her needs at the moment. So she was trying to be friends with Millie McIntosh when she was trying to get into the British upper aristocracy and moving in those circles. And she happened to somehow get into the pinnacle because she found a pretty dim man. But like that's Meghan's level. And so she's strategically friended these people for their access to their private jets, influence, money, opportunities, what have you. There's not like, I would say, argue, most likely these aren't natural friendships, not friendships she really cares about at the end of the day, beyond what they can give her.
I'm so lucky in that regard. Oh my gosh, guess what just happened? Like, that's totally normal, Meg. Totally normal. Just power through it. So talking to someone who's been through it and is on the other side of it with tremendous success is valuable.
And very convenient.
To get a mentor. But no, I mean, I try to hike. I try to connect with outdoors. I definitely make time for my children. I make time for date nights.
So I found that very interesting because to me, it's like, okay, so you have to make time for your children. It should actually be the opposite. You make time for work while focusing on your children. Because to say I make time for my children seems to indicate to me that spending time with her children is not as important as running the business for her. Now, I can also see it the other way, to be fair, that, you have to make time for your kids because you get so consumed with the business that sometimes you miss out on opportunities. I mean, I kind of sort of get that. Obviously, too, you want to make, kind of opportunities to do solo ventures with your kids, to connect with them and stuff like that. But to me, what I see here is that, to relax, I hike, I spend time with my children. It's like she actually has two things before she goes, oh, spending time with the children and date night. I forgot about those two things, as if they're not as important. And I just find that to be a little odd.
You have to make time for balance, see a perspective. You can be so in the weeds of building a business, but you have got to find a moment to look up and see that there's a lot more going on around you than just that. You have to. Otherwise, I think your judgment is skewed.
So I found that sort of interesting because when you are, let's say, building a business, like you are consumed by it. I have been consumed by it when I'm trying to build this. But at the same time, it was also like sink or swim. I wanted this to be massively successful. So I knew I had to give up so much of my time and energy to make it successful. It would not be successful if I did not, let's say, sacrifice a lot to make that happen. I had to sacrifice so much to make it all come together. And because of that, obviously, you kind of get exhausted. You kind of get worn out. And so this year, I've made it a concerted effort to do more social activities because I got so consumed with the business, like, and everything about it, that I would skip out on things. But I don't see Meghan really doing that because she has all the help in the world. So she doesn't have that sense, I think, of being endlessly consumed by it to such a point where she really needs to make time. Because to me, it seems like the opposite, that she should be consumed with the business, but she's constantly making time for other things. And when it comes to growing a business, those first couple of years, especially, everything has to go into the business. I can take more time out now because I've grown the business and it's in a good spot. Whereas other people are in the place where it's like you need to be front and center that whole time. I kind of learned that from Shark Tank too. You need to be 100% focused on it, at least until you can get it to a pretty solid point. And that's how I've done it. And I feel like that's not how Meghan's done it. All right, guys, we are going to skip the ad read and we're going to go to the next little bit here. Golly, this thing is so long.
There are skills that you got from your days as an actress that are transferable into this new entrepreneurial world that you're in.
Of course. I mean, again,
I feel like she's asked this question now 12 times.
having a thick skin, partnerships and the value of, having great relationships when you're building certainly lots of different SKUs is key.
She doesn't have great relationships, though. She's been an alleged bully to staff members now on 2 continents. And so this idea that, she's all that invested in quote unquote relationships, I think is a little bit of a misnomer. She's invested in the people who can get her ahead, but anybody who's beneath her, I think she treats like dirt. That's just my personal opinion, though.
Key. And so a piece of advice I was given years ago as an auditioning actress was don't try to book the part, book the room. Meaning it doesn't matter if you don't get that role. You might not be right for it. You might remind the director of an ex-girlfriend that broke his heart.
I mean, there's some good wisdom here. I'm sure this is true, but also you got to think as well. Meghan has burned a lot of bridges. Like Spotify basically kicked them on their butts. Like they just kicked them out. No holds barred. You guys suck. Get out. That was like basically how Spotify treated them. And so sometimes you do get kicked out on your hiney.
It could be any number of reasons. It's not about the part. you're going to see those producers and those casting directors at so many other opportunities. Book the room. Let them see that you're talented. Let them see you have something to bring to the table. Treat them with kindness. All of those relationships end up coming to fruition. You don't know when.
I mean, Meghan, you should follow your own advice there. What about the royal family, your staff member in the UK? You know, based on how you've actually treated people, not this, oh, I treat them with kindness. You don't actually haven't treated a lot of people with kindness. And so as a result, you'll get to the point where it's kind of you can't go back anymore. And you sort of failed broadly, I feel like, in this endeavor. I think you did.
But just like with life, relationships matter. So I learned that.
She doesn't care about relationships. So she doesn't have a relationship with her father or her in-laws, like any of her in-laws. So that's a complete misnomer and a complete lie.
In the very long road of auditioning, for sure.
Do you ever miss acting?
Sometimes. But you know what? Actually, having a large team, being back on set.
This bit here, we saw this last time too. I think Meghan likes people that she can order around. She likes a crew and people that she can order around. That's the true, I think, thing about acting that she misses is that opportunity. Oh, and the clothes.
With Love Meghan was great because I realized how much I missed my crew. I love being around a crew.
Yeah, it must be.
I think it's interesting that she didn't bring anybody from Suits crew to this new crew. Like that's kind of telling. And have we heard from any of the crew on Suits about Meghan? No. I doubt she was an angel there either. This has been a long-standing pattern for Meghan, so I doubt she was all that great. I mean, I can imagine people she's worked with stewing over this, going, "No, you weren't. No, you weren't." I'm sure they're all thinking that.
Hard to let that go.
Yeah, that was different. And also, it was such a unique time because we couldn't say that I was leaving necessarily. It was speculated. So after 7 years on the series, we couldn't have a going away party. I couldn't say my goodbyes.
Oh, that's
so I found this interesting. So I feel like this confirms the rumor that because Mike was leaving the show, I think he was the character of Mike or the actor's name was Mike, I can't remember. But because he was leaving the show, she was going to be leaving too. And they didn't want the fans to know that. Because I feel like if she was going to marry Harry, like why not just make that public? Like that's just not a big deal. I think the truth was, and the longstanding truth that she knew is that she was going to be written out of the show, but they didn't want the audience to know that. So they didn't do other things to kind of let people know that she was leaving. And if there was no goodbye, you just got to wonder if people were all that sad to miss her or they were like, oh, thank goodness she's gone. Oh man. It would be interesting to know. Anybody from Suits want to reach out? Suits crew, tell the truth about Meghan. I would be very curious because I don't think it was the rosy relationship she's portraying here.
so sad.
I know. So if my crew's watching it, I missed you guys. I wish I could have said bye.
Do you miss them?
She doesn't talk to any of the crew. Like as far as we're aware, she has no relationship with any of the crew. She just said blandly says the crew.
You must do.
Oh yeah, we worked with people
You're
for
like a
7
family.
years.
Yeah.
For 7 years, that's a really strong connection, and I loved the crew. So I think for me, having the series, even though it wasn't scripted, was really great to get that piece back. But then also building.
I mean, I don't quite understand. You can have you have like a staff team and stuff, but also as well, like the staff could resign and stuff. Like the crew is a little bit different. So she was, I'm sure, again, very excited to have minions she can order around.
My own business, you have a team. And that's really what I was craving as well.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand quite the obsession with the team. Like, I wouldn't mind having people to help bounce ideas off of, but I really feel like her thing is she wants people to order around. That's my personal opinion. Take it or leave it.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the public narrative, because when you sign up to be an actress, you know that people are going to start recognizing you. They're going to start speaking to you on the street. But that's very different from what you have now.
It is?
Yes, because royalty is very different than celebrity Meghan Markle. Because Meghan didn't totally understand that. And so that's why she looks like a fool, because she didn't totally get that.
It is, Emma. It's very different.
No. I wonder, and listen, I want to say this to you in the best way, because I wonder if you could rewrite your public narrative from scratch. Is there anything that you would do differently?
So this is a great question. This is a fantastic question. And Meghan's answer here should be, I would do X differently. I would do Y differently. I understand how things didn't go quite well. I should have done things better with the royals and everything. But Meghan's answer here is so egotistical, so megalomaniac that it actually boggles the mind. It completely and utterly boggles the mind what she is saying here, which is that basically, I have never, ever done anything wrong.
Yes, I would ask people to tell the truth.
Ask people to tell the truth. Meghan, number one, you actually probably really don't want that because, again, we are not living in the insane asylum with you, Meghan. We are not required as a world to go along with your delusions. I just immediately clocked you the first time I saw you. I thought the whole story of you dating Harry was fake and that you were a desperate D-list actress low on the totem pole of a mediocrely successful show trying to get your 20 seconds in the limelight. And although the story of you dating Harry was 100% true, I was not wrong at all in how I initially perceived you. I was actually 100% correct. And so to me, that screams a situation where Meghan is just completely and utterly bereft of acknowledgement that she is actually the biggest part of her problem. Was a great opportunity, again, for her to help mend her image. This does not help her mend her image. She continues to look like she's lying and gaslighting and playing the victim. This was her chance to start taking actually back the narrative and go, you know what? When I entered into the royal family, I just really I didn't really take the time to understand it. I really had some ideas and maybe I just didn't go about it quite the right way. I do regret that. I wish I had done things differently. Like, that's all you have to do. In America, we love a redemption story. We love people when they go, "Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong." There's actually been sort of a big scandal because I follow some things in the Christian space recently with a singer of a big Christian band who was accused of some very serious allegations and interactions, and he acknowledged it. He acknowledged that while he didn't agree that every detail was true, he did say that a lot of it, like the general situations, were true. That he abused drugs and alcohol, that he was trying to come on to guys when he shouldn't have been. And that goes a long way. And some people said, well, they hope his confession is sincere, but that sort of confession thing, and he actually labeled his response a confession. And that type of thing actually goes so much further with people than going, well, I never did anything wrong. Nobody else just told the truth about me. How? What was what did people lie about Meghan? She can't even say what it was. What did people lie about? How were they not telling the truth? This was a great opportunity for her to actually start helping her own PR, but she just made it worse. And she honestly ticks off more of the royal family because they go, honey, we have the smoking gun here. We have all the bullying allegations against you. You're more than willing to share that with the world. Like, you're going to give us an opportunity here. So, yeah, let's go. Let's go. But again, Meghan doesn't see the irony, doesn't see the reality. She just sees the fantasy. Again, we should all be living in the insane asylum with her. We should all be there to help fulfill and help realize her fantasies.
You're very measured about it. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I'm such a hothead.
Are you? What's your sign?
Oh gosh, please, for the love of goodness. This is so stupid. I may offend people, but I don't really care. I think astrology is stupid. Do think 100%. And anybody who uses Meghan goes, well, what's your sign? That helps me evaluate you. No, it doesn't. It's a shallow way to do it. It doesn't really tell you anything, like nothing. So I would completely avoid any astrology talk, in my personal opinion.
I'm a Libra. But
Oh,
I know. And it's
Libras.
like, I don't know.
Megan's like, I don't even know any Libras. Like, what? And Emma doesn't care. Emma's like, I'm just some Libra. Like, I don't care. Like, I know what my sign is. Do I care? No, I don't. I think it's stupid. So I'm aware of it, but do I put any stock of it? No. Like, I don't even know what the origins of it are. It's probably pagan or something. I don't care.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit, ghetto with it, like a little bit hood. I
You
would just get so angry if I felt like everyone was lying about me all the time. I'm like, don't you ever feel like just that script, like just being like, just leave me alone. Like, let me show you.
Meghan could do that. She could live on a farm in Montana without the rest of the world hanging, like, criticizing her. But no, she cannot shut up. That's the problem, is she can't shut up, and she is her own worst enemy. We went over this in the last little bit where we paused, where she was basically thought she never did anything wrong. And so she doubles down and increases the negative reaction to her by not acknowledging that she is the main part of her problem.
Is there a part of you that ever is just like, just leave me alone?
Peaks and valleys.
Peaks and valleys.
You
Fair
know?
enough.
No, I mean, like,
You get to see there was a little tension in Meghan, peaks and valleys. She has a hard time with it. I would guarantee you 100%. Meghan has a really hard time that we are not subjected to the same beliefs as her.
Very elegant.
but it's true. Of course, I've gone through those chapters and you do a lot of work. You do a lot of self-work and go, what's the why? It's happening.
She doesn't acknowledge what the why is, though. She doesn't acknowledge it. That's part of the problem. That's why she can't get past it. Is it I did another video on this. All of this exists for a reason. It would die down if things changed. So let's say Weighty Katie. Let's take that as an example. Weighty Katie is what people call Catherine. Well, that pretty much went away as soon as she married William. So she had to live with the cloud of that for a while. But there would be some people now who doesn't even know about Weighty Katie and that existed. And then let's say there's always been a label for Catherine and William for a long time of being work shy. Well, once they picked up working, that sort of conversation sort of died down. It still exists in some places, but it did die down somewhat. And so, because of that, you can change your public image and you can change what people think about you, but it does take time, number one. But number two, you actually have to live what you preach, or you have to live and change what you're doing. So, another interesting example you could say is Princess Sophia of Sweden. She was on a reality TV show. She was Miss Slits or something in 2004. She posed topless with a snake wrapped around her. And so she lived, you could say, a pretty sort of crazy life that would seem undignified as a royal. But she married Prince Carl Gustaf. They now have 4 children. And you would never know, except for the tattoo on the back of her neck, that she had such a wild past. You probably really wouldn't know. And that goes to show that there's growth and maturity, and that you can change the perception of you, but you actually have to change what you're doing. And Meghan's not changing what she's doing. And that's why everything persists. Everything about Meghan, people endlessly dissect photos because she's lied to us numerous times. Oh, we got married 3 days before our wedding by the Archbishop of Canterbury. And even in that video clip of them in the chicken house with Meghan talking about it, Harry puts his head down as if he knows it's not true. And he just, like, he's not interested. Like, she's trying to make it this romantic moment and her husband won't even look at her. And the reason he won't is that he knows she's lying. And the Archbishop of Canterbury had to come out and basically say she lied. Meghan Markle has been caught lying in court. She's saying she didn't have emails and text messages when she had the emails and text messages, or they existed somewhere else. And she just thought, oh, they deleted. And so Meghan has lied numerous times. And then she has people like Omid Scobie who also lie on her behalf. And so you have this thing endlessly where Meghan Markle has a very tenuous relationship with the truth. And so because of that, the situation where people don't believe her, don't buy what she's selling and everything is perpetuated because none of us believe her.
Happening for a reason. And my dear friend Serena, who I'm sure you know.
I love Serena. She's like my girl crush. Talk about successful entrepreneur, by the way.
Who is also a very, very successful tennis player. You can't avoid and separate the tennis success from the entrepreneurial success. Would Serena be successful as an entrepreneur without the backing of tennis and her billionaire husband? Probably not. Just saying, I don't know. I don't know anything about Serena's businesses. But I felt like that was my dear friend Serena. Very, very much a name drop, like a very obvious name drop. Like that wasn't even like subtle.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She's doing so well.
She said killing. I mean, she's
this is so dumb.
literally, it's amazing that she can have like that type of career and then this type of business career. I don't even know that people fully have grasped like how successful she is.
But also,
I don't even know, because I don't even know what her businesses are. So it might not be in my sphere, might not be something I'm interested in, but they're like Michael Jordan, massively successful. Jordan's, like the shoes, hugely successful. And that's connected to him. And so he's like well into billionaire status, one of the most successful athletes of all time. Tiger Woods, of course, up there as well. Serena Williams, I'm sure, there too, but I just don't know enough about her post-tennis career business-wise.
Also translating knowledge from the court and being dedicated and
all the things
to another avenue. It does.
Well, because usually people who are very successful in a sport can generally be very successful in other avenues because they have that drive and ambition, which Meghan Markle does not have.
Doesn't mean that you have to stay in one lane for your whole life. It means that you can translate those skills somewhere else.
That like, well, duh, people. Come on. Like, this is like, I don't know, I feel like Business for Dummies or something. We all know this, Meghan. You don't need to tell us that.
It's probably part of the magic. But she told me years ago, a lie can't live forever.
The problem is, though, that's Meghan's issue. Her lies can't live forever. She's caught in lies numerous times. That's the problem. So the lie can't live forever, but Meghan is the lie. Meghan's told numerous lies. And so she's actually telling on herself here that the lie can't live forever. Well, she might be exposed. What if somebody leaks the bullying allegations? And everything Meghan did was written out in black and white how she abused her staff members. So where was the lie, Meghan? Because I think the truth is coming out. And if she is so believing that people can just tell the truth, why does she have everybody sign ironclad NDAs? Why not let everybody speak? Why not let people share what you're really like? She's terrified of the truth. She cannot live with the truth. And that's the issue.
8 years is a long time. But
8 years is a long time. So yeah, Meghan, again, consumed by this idea that people don't get her. She's consumed. She wants us all there clapping and cheering and being mindless drones to her success and brilliance. That's what she wants us, Joe Public, to be.
not forever.
So how do you walk the line between owning your own narrative and feeding the frenzy? Because again, when you have a business, you need to go out and promote it. You need to go and do, whatever it is that you might need to do. Speak to the media, turn up at
Yeah, that's a great question. And Meghan has not helped herself in the slightest. It would be nice if Emma would call her out on stuff, because Emma has to know. Emma has to look at stuff and know this is not good. This was a mess. Her strategy isn't good. And Meghan could actually create a decent narrative, but she just can't do it.
retailer convention, like whatever it might be. So how for you are you able to toe the line?
I think
She doesn't know. That's an honest answer. Meghan's looking up in the sky, not knowing. I'm surprised. Meghan's looking everywhere. You'll notice that. I don't know enough about body language, but I know, because I've done a little bit of reporting. It's you really want to try the best you can to look straight at the camera. So when I'm talking to Dan, one of the things I do, because I really want to make sure I'm looking at the camera. So even if the video is playing on my screen, I'm still looking at the camera because I want to keep my eye contact with the camera at all times. And even now, though, I have to look at the screen to watch it, but my eyes generally want to go up here to engage with you guys. And so I do, obviously everybody kind of looks different places sometimes. I'm thinking of something, my eyes shift or whatever, but her eyes are shifting excessively. Whereas Emma's are not. Emma's very direct. You'll notice in her eye contact. And Meghan's going like this. She's going like this all the time. And to me, that screams of somebody who is not confident, who is trying to, let's say, massage every piece of truth. And what I mean by that is some of it's truth, some of it's half truth, whatever. She's trying to massage it. So she's looking all around, trying to think of the ideas and the best way to put things so that it makes her look the best. Now, granted, that is some of course, what you do when you are somebody who is in this sphere. But I want to say again, it makes Meghan look very shifty to me. She's doing it way, 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 way too much.
It's a fine line, but it's also setting up boundaries, which I would say to anyone, no matter what you're going through, what your experience has been, you set boundaries of where you're comfortable, and it's okay to say no.
But this is not about, she's specifically asking, how are you addressing all this stuff going on around you? How are you addressing and trying to, the question should truly be, okay, you have a huge toxic reputation. So how do you try to amend that? Because Meghan should be trying to amend that while also trying to start a business. Meghan's not doing those things, and she doesn't know how to do that, which is why she's giving this non-answer. Well, I need to create boundaries. That's not actually the answer to this question. The answer to this question is, how are you addressing the disparity between your fantasy and reality? Because that is a hard time, and that is why your reputation is all over the place.
It's okay to say, I'm not comfortable answering that. It's okay to pivot.
Oh, yeah.
But Meghan has never had a tough interview. That's the thing. Meghan has never had a tough interview. I would say Jane Pauley got the closest. Jane Pauley really did ask her some really hard questions that Meghan really did not want to answer. That was the toughest interview Meghan has had. Meghan does not like tough interviews.
And to really get to the place where you don't feel as though you have to explain yourself. And I think that comes with time, maturity, work, support surrounding you.
But Meghan just said, I want people to tell the truth. So they want to explain the truth about her, but she doesn't want to explain herself. All this is self-inflicted. These are all self-inflicted wounds. And you can almost see Emma's skepticism here. At least I want to hopefully read it as that, because I feel like Emma is smarter than she's coming across here in some parts of this interview by just going along with whatever Meghan is saying. But there should be a level of skepticism here.
But also to be authentic. You know, I don't think there's any value either in being so rehearsed and just having your talking points and just saying the thing. No, just talk. It's
That's what Meghan does. He's so rehearsed. Oh my gosh, she doesn't talk. Like every time Meghan opens her mouth, I feel like she's like filtering through 10,000 thoughts to get one out. Like she's trying to like gauge which one's the best one. Like she's so scripted.
It's just not the time for it. I think that there is an element of where we are in culture right now that, like it or loathe it, we crave authenticity. Like, we want those people that we believe, rightly or wrongly, are telling us the truth.
Yeah. You can almost see Meghan going, yeah, I'm not telling the truth. And I hope nobody notices that. That's what Meghan's thinking right now. I'm not telling the truth, and don't let people know that.
So I feel like there is no point in having rehearsed lines and a narrative that is like, fully, written out that isn't your own. You have to be authentic.
Yes. And that is the thing Meghan can't do. And this is the example she gives.
just be authentic. Did you see my baby mama dance?
That's not authentic, Meghan. That's her idea of authenticity. A carefully calculated social media strategy from a video she's kept for 4 years with the sole purpose of putting on social media to gain an audience. That is not authentic. That is not real. That is not real. This is why people don't like her. This is why people don't believe her.
I mean, stop it. First of all, can I just tell you the timing of that?
She's like, Meghan's so giddy about how good that video did.
Timing of that, we maybe watched it like 20 times yesterday, and I was like, is that her?
Oh my God.
Prince.
Meghan's so happy. She's playing with her hair. She's being all cutesy. She's so giddy.
Harry there with the fingers and I was like, okay, yeah, okay. Good on Harry. Let's go.
But I think
that's you, right? Like that's you in a way that we kind of haven't been able to see you before. And
But the thing is, I don't know really if that's true. And Meghan goes on something else like, I have fun. Basically, it's her answer. It's like, honey, we all know you probably have fun. That's never been the question. The question is, how truthful are you? That's the actual question. And the question Meghan just can't wrap her mind around is that we want the truth. But Meghan can't handle the truth. And that's the problem. It doesn't, baby mama dances. Who gives a crap? Who gives a crap about a baby mama dance? The real thing is, did Harry and Meghan get married 3 days before their wedding or not? The Archbishop of Canterbury said no. Harry seemed to also, via his body language, say no. And Meghan said yes. So somebody is lying, and it's probably Meghan. And that's her problem. She tends to lie.
I did like a little secret cheer because I was like, well, that's what I kind of want to see from you. Like, I want to see that happiness and that honesty and that, like,
I didn't think it was happy or real. I don't understand why people are going, it was so happy. She looked like she was grinding in a club. I just didn't get happiness and joy from that.
Give a fuck.
But also, by the way, that wasn't yesterday.
No,
that was 4 years ago. So it's also a really great reminder that with all the noise or whatever people do, there's still a whole life, a real, authentic, fun life that's happening behind the scenes.
But you're not showing us that. That's never comes across. To me, everything seems hugely calculated. And so we know that she does a lot of things and calculates a lot of things. And so that has been influenced and infused into everything she does. So this notion that she's coming across here that, oh no, it's just authentic, it's just nice and wonderful and la 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 and all these sorts of things. I'm like, I really don't think that's true. And nobody doubted Meghan at any point ever that you, maybe in your definition of fun, whatever it is, which I doubt is anybody's definition of fun, that you do have fun. Nobody questions that. The question remains is, are you being truthful? That's the real thing. Doesn't matter if you're having fun. Doesn't matter if you go out for drinks. It doesn't matter if you do a baby mama dance in the hospital with your husband. Are you telling the truth about other things? Your family, your in-laws, all these sorts of things. That is what truly matters to people. And that is what people are frustrated by when it comes to you.
Just grateful that now being back on social as well, I have a place where I can share it on my own terms.
On your own terms. And that's really, really important.
Meghan was sharing things on her own term via the paparazzi. I don't think we've seen really any paparazzi shots this year really of Meghan, except for maybe when she arrived for her As Ever launch in New York City, because now she has Instagram, so she can do everything via Instagram. And so that is sort of her obsession. And like I can share things. It's like, you didn't need to share. Like, Meghan, nobody's asking you to share things. Like, we really don't care. Like, if you went off into the sunset and camped out a million miles from anybody in like the Antarctic, nobody really care about that. The thing is, she thinks we all are so invested. And it's like people are continuing to watch Meghan because they're hoping to watch her fail. They're waiting for that moment where everything falls apart and she is flat on her face. That is what everybody is waiting for.
You've really embraced social media. Do you enjoy it, or does it feel like a bit of a drag?
Oh, she loves social media. She's obsessed with it.
No, it doesn't feel like a drag. It feels
Okay.
liberating. I have to look again. What was my intention? I came back, started the account in January of this year.
No, she didn't. She founded it in like 2022. You can actually go back into the Instagram account and show that it was founded in 2022. So she's had this for a long time. She's been calculating this for a long, long time. So it's not just, oh, I started this in 2024. No, you didn't. You had the handle. That's how I knew you uploaded the video, Meghan. I had the handle because everybody had been told at some point in a couple interviews because you whispered to the cut person, I'm back on Instagram. And so everybody found Meghan. And so there were like 100,000 people already signed up because that was most likely going to be yours. So, like, she has been calculating this for a long time. So it's not spontaneous, it's not natural. It's all part of a massive strategy. And there was nothing to prevent Meghan at any point from being on social media. She just, I think, wanted to try to make it different ways. And then when everything else failed, she had to revert back to being an influencer.
Was it only January?
Yeah.
Oh,
The last time.
A lie, because Emma probably knows. Like, again, it's stupid. You can go back into your phone and you can literally see right now. I'll pull it up for you guys right now. So, guys, here it is. Date joined June 2022. She has had this account for 3 years and it was verified in January 2025. And so, for my username one time. So, I don't know what it was before, but was Meghan for a long time. So, yeah, and I started following it, I think in 2023 or maybe even 2022, whenever that cut interview came out. Started my channel in 2022. I want to say it was probably in 2022. I started following this. So, yeah, this idea that, oh no, like, oh, she wasn't on Instagram, guys. Like, total and complete lie. It is right there. She has been here for a long time and she's been cyber stalking for a long time.
Time I was on social, Boomerang was around.
oh Lord.
It's been a minute. There was no stories. They're like, all of it's new. There were no
God, why are you so obsessed with Boomerang? Like, who cares? My gosh.
gadgets. Or you could have a little tripod that I'm sitting. You should see me sitting there trying to figure with a magnet on
One
it.
of
I was like,
the things,
okay.
yes.
And figuring I don't have key lights and all. I don't have all this business yet, but I'm just
Which is embarrassing. You have all the money to actually make good content, and she doesn't. But at the same time, too, people prefer authenticity, but I don't think that means squatting in your garden while you're explaining to us that you failed with your initial brand idea and had to change it.
I don't know if you need it. I think if part of it is just being able to authentically share in real time the things that are happening that I think someone might be able to laugh with or enjoy or be inspired by, then
She's not doing any of that. Look at her Instagram account. Like, seriously. Oh my gosh, this is just so dumb. This is such a lie. Like, all of this is carefully curated and managed. Like, we don't need to see her at a concert. Like, all this, like, this was a video from a year ago with her dead dog. Like, come on. Like, in this, like, she probably scared those ducks. She was probably stalking the ducks. Why is a grown woman in the bushes? Because she was stalking the ducks and then had her husband go over there and said, give me a video of me going with the ducks on Easter. Like, come on, Meghan Markle. Like, again, I feel like she treats us all like we're stupid. And I hate it when celebrities do that.
I want to do that in a way that feels like I can still have my hands on it and not be overproduced.
But are you thinking about it in the way that so many of us do as also a business tool?
Not for
She should be. She should be.
my personal account.
Really?
No. For my personal
Yes. Well, then why, Meghan, if you're not thinking of business, why do you have your Shop My on your personal account? Yes, you know nothing about social media. It's like ridiculous. Even if you have a personal profile, it's an extension of your business. It's 100% an extension of her business. And then she's flogging her business on her personal social media account. So this is like, Meghan sounds like Emma's like, what? Why not? What? Emma's concern here is sort of like, huh?
personal account?
Yeah.
No.
Well, that's the one we're all following.
Well, good.
That's
A
the
lot of
one
your-
that
So it's like, Emma's so right. She's like, that's the one we're all following. So why in the world should we follow as like, so bad? Oh my gosh, she's so sucks. This is like, oh my gosh. How would you not think of it as a business one? Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Megan, somebody at Megan's level. And again, if you have a personal account, then that should be private and something you don't share. No problem with celebrities having that. A lot of them do. If you're going to have a public one, it should be treated as a business or an extension of your business. Yes, you share personal things on it, but it's also part of your PR strategy. To say it's not basically is idiotic. Like, you sound stupid if you do it that way.
Falling as ever,
just
too.
dropped.
No, I think for me, it was a great way to get my voice back.
Yeah, you have.
You have not shut up, Meghan Markle. You have never shut up. Like, we would all pay you to shut up at this point. Like, seriously, stop talking. It's like this whole thing that's like, oh, I don't have my voice. It's like, Megan, you're the witch. You've had the voice the entire time, or Ursula, or whatever. Like, you've had the voice the entire time. You stole it from other people. You steal it from your staff members by having them sign NDAs. You're Ursula in the Ariel narrative. Not Ariel, you're Ursula. Just saying.
Have to.
Get my voice back.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. And that's really, it's my space and my channel for joy. That is the intention of my handle.
Well,
What? That's dumb. That doesn't make any sense. What? Don't be crazy, Meghan Markle. My gosh. Oh my goodness. But you fired people over your social media posts. So, like, clearly that's not actually the case.
I think that your voice carries such unbelievable influence. I remember a time where you were like, step out with a sweater, the sweater would sell out. It's crazy. Like, how do you feel about that? Was that part of the reason for you starting a brand? Like, have you been able to
A great question. And it reflects, and I think we'll hear it from Meghan here, that she saw that ethos and she wanted a piece of it. That's why she started a shop mine. I've been really behind on my shop mine. I've been so bad about it. But like, that's Meghan.
reconcile the fact that you have that type of influence? And I wonder how you think about, that as it relates to your advocacy work, that as it relates to your business ventures, because it's a lot to carry around.
Well, it's funny because that's been now for several years, that effect. And
she wanted definitely money from that. That's why she started Shop Mine. Again, just saying.
Again, I think my feelings surrounding it have ebbed and flowed because they say imitation is the best form of flattery. And at the same time, you start to watch how it's being monetized at such a huge level globally, oftentimes not giving credit to the brands and the designers who actually made those pieces.
Right.
So that's not really under your control, though. You have to just recognize that that's sort of the reality of the beast. You can't have control over everything. And yeah, this is sort of weird.
So it was that fine line between, well, do you want to spoon feed who the brands and the designers are? And then it feels promotional when I have no skin in the game in any of those arrangements.
That's the thing. She doesn't have any skin in the game. So she wants skin in the game. That's the thing. She wants her fashion to pay. And she wants a piece of that action. Catherine doesn't. But Meghan wants a piece of that action. She wants everything she wears to pay in one way or another.
And at the same time, do you want people to mislabel it? Because when I didn't feel as though I had as much of an opportunity to speak, well, what can you say with what you're wearing? You can say,
oh my gosh, Meghan, you've said this before at this point. This is boring. And you could not shut up. Like, you were doing speeches as a royal like all the time. You could not shut your mouth. And you still can't. That's part of the problem. If she talked less, she might be in a better spot.
you can say a lot.
Quite a lot.
You can say a lot. And so being able to support, especially female-founded designers, small local brands, any territories we would go to on certain tours, I always tried to tap into local designers.
So that's why you wore Dior to Morocco? I don't even think she wore anything that was actually Moroccan on her tour. So and she wore Oscar de la Renta, like in Australia, Valentino when she landed in Morocco. Like, give us a break, Meghan. We're not stupid. You wore everything but designers locally. You wanted to have haute couture like the entire time. So yeah.
To really see their business just do so well as a result, or how many people they could help, or how much they could give back.
And you're saying you were purposeful with that?
Of course.
Because she wanted a piece of it. She wants skin in the game.
Of course. There's intention. And so I think in moments where I found I wasn't as empowered with my voice, I still wanted to be able to be heard in other ways.
Why is there an obsession with people need to hear my voice? Again, goes back to the megalomaniac. Like, she needs us to hear her. Why? Why do we need to hear you? Do you have anything to offer in this here? Maybe you don't. Maybe your ideas aren't good. And that's why you don't maybe deserve to speak. Like, this very self-centered notion that we need to hear her all the time is utterly like I find it very offensive. Even any royals going, well, I needed you to hear me. I needed you to hear me. I needed you to hear me. I'm like, I'd be like, why? Why do I need to hear you? No offense, but maybe I don't want to hear you. Maybe I'm not interested in what you have to say. And that's something Meghan should consider. I think she should strongly consider.
Still wanted women to know that I was supporting them. I still wanted people to feel like even if I didn't get an uplift from that they did. And in some ways that actually did uplift me because I went, oh my gosh, like there was a company.
We've heard these stories before, but it just goes to show how much Meghan, I think, was obsessed in the idea of the Meghan effect and making it pay her.
They made jeans and they would help women.
Was it Good American? No.
You weren't around then. You weren't around then. But they made jeans and they gave the
well, she's so proud of it, and yet she can't remember the name. So how much did it really matter to you, Meghan, if you can't say the name?
The positions and the roles to women who would have been trafficked. And they took them off the streets and they put them into this labor force to be able to have a well-paying job where they were well taken care of, to be able to help that company and get letters from those founders saying, we were able to help save 25 women because of you wearing these jeans.
Just 25 women, that's all? What about 250 women? Okay, just curious. Just curious. And then why can't she remember the name? If it was so important to her, why not remember the name? Interesting thought.
That is a huge privilege of influence. And I never took that lightly. So I think, had I chosen to just maximize the opportunity of the financial element of having a business.
But that's what she tried to do with Shop My.
Doing fashion would have been very obvious, as we talked about. Okay. But I wanted to go with what my heart was really responding to in this moment.
Was there ever a time when the influence you have actually really surprised you?
No, that's an interesting question.
At the beginning, of course.
And Meghan does that all the time. I find it very annoying. I always edit those out, guys, in the videos. I hate them.
What is happening here?
What is going on?
But I just want a sweater around my shoulders.
I mean, yeah, wild. But you have to think too,
Meghan needs to stop doing that. Stop doing that, Meghan.
Years before that on Suits, that was a very fashion-driven show. And people loved Rachel Zane's wardrobe, which I was very, very involved with because I wanted it to look like a capsule that a real woman would wear.
Oh, for Pete's sakes, Meghan, your fashion is awful. Like, come on. I doubt she had that much influence. Really, honestly, I doubt it.
The match. And I was one of the only characters that re-wore pieces. But that was by design. So I knew that there was influence there. But yes, it certainly got bigger.
She's so pleased with herself.
It really got bigger.
Got a lot bigger.
Are you comfortable with that?
I have to be. It's my life.
Yeah. You get comfortable, basically.
Well, I mean, she's monetizing it. Let's be honest. Come on.
Get comfortable. You get to be an acceptance of what is.
Yeah, no, completely. But I also think it's really amazing that you can participate in that now because after a while it can, I think it's wonderful and it's great that everybody can gain from it. But I do think that there is a time and a place in your life where you need to have some skin in the game. You need to have
I understand that from a business perspective, but that's not the life of a royal. And Meghan was trying to do that as a royal, and that was part of the problem.
Piece of that. For yourself.
Yes. And I think what was so wild, maybe the surprise came in when anything that my children.
We hardly see your children, Meghan. So how is it that much of an impact? We hardly see them.
Were wearing, started to get monetized and affiliate sales and part of headlines and things. That's where it became a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, come on. It's children's clothes. Who cares? Who cares? It's like children's clothes. Like, come on. It's not. Like, you trying to say that's creepy? That's not creepy at all. That you think it's creepy is weird. Like, come on.
But at the same
and then she's showing off her kids on Instagram.
Time, when it comes from a place of love and excitement, very, very different.
It's very different.
Yeah, then you can be happy about it and say, of course, have the same dress that Lily has. It's when it comes from a different side. But that's true.
Well, then what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't understand.
True of most things in life.
So with Archwell, you've built this ecosystem of philanthropy, storytelling, it feels like, you've now got the commerce and the brand piece of that.
Yes.
So, it really is. It's like an empire that you're building, like a media and commerce empire. And I wonder if you thought about it in the sense of having real guiding principles for what.
Good question. Another good question.
You will be involved in, what you allow yourselves to get involved in. Was that a part of your, was it part of what you were thinking about as you started bringing all these things together?
She does that all the time. Golly, every time she answers a question.
There was a lot of, again, flying the plane while you're still building it, but always at its origin, being so value aligned with what my husband and I believe in. And that's where it started. It started with,
What do you believe in? I don't even know what you believe in. You definitely believe that women should be trampling over men.
when we moved out here and building the foundation.
So you could get a tax write-off. It's a way to write off their taxes.
But, you know, as things expanded and certainly talking about what sort of content we want to put out, what sort of documentaries we want to make, what stories we want to tell.
You guys aren't good at that.
Those expanded under the Archwell universe with the production company.
And none of them did well, really.
And, you know, building out in my own office, my brand and my business has felt really exciting and different. They all still are value aligned. When my husband and I, when we think about investments that we make, or certainly my own personal portfolio, is it value aligned? Is it mission driven?
So she has her own portfolio, which is not with Harry's. That's, again, a little bit concerning because everything they should do as a couple should be done together. It should all be done together. Like, why be a couple if, oh, I have my investments, he has his, but they're not ours, they're mine.
Is it purpose driven? And that can run the gamut. You know, some of the investments that I started to make in women and female founded companies.
I would be not to rag on the women, because obviously I'm a woman. I want women businesses to be successful, but I would find it rather funny if Meghan invested in all these female businesses and yet they all failed. Just to go show maybe you should invest in the business, not just because it's run by a woman.
Started with things as simple as, what is the meaningful impact that a beautiful latte that you can make at home will have? It sounds so silly, but when it's adaptogens and it's good for you, like with Clever, I was really proud to be her first investor. And it was my very first investment also. So I learned quite a bit there.
Oh, it's so dumb. She's like a worst investor. It's like, well, I like the tea and the matcha and whatever. I don't know.
On the flip side of that, you look at a company like MIDI, which is women talking about perimenopause and menopause. And that is a chapter of their life that's making a very meaningful impact for a lot of women. I look at who's on the cap table. Melinda Gates is one that's there. And
so she's trying to follow the Gates.
Look at whose company I'm going to be in as I support these brands, as I'm sure you do too.
Well, she just supports female-led companies. That's all she does. That's all she cares about is women.
I wanted to ask you about that because I feel like investing is so different from everything else. And I wonder, you know, it's very clear to me that you've got a lot of principles around who you're backing. But is there anything else that you're like, are you out there specifically looking? Are things coming to you? How do you think about that side of your business?
Both. I'm looking at what comes through organically, not just through the people that can help put the portfolio together, but
why does she keeps adjusting herself? Like, again, she comes across to me, especially all the meandering eyes and stuff, as very, like, actually not confident at all.
Friends that are in VC, female founders that you're sort of tracking and saying, what are they up to next? Really interested in fintech. I also, you know, I think financial literacy for young women especially is just so important. And
she's just throwing out buzzwords and stuff.
So from my standpoint, not leaning away from things like that might not be as trendy or topical to talk about, but they are vital. So I look at things where that's going to move the needle for young women and their education and what they can have access to and feel a lot of growth from.
She just has such an obsession with women. I feel so sorry for her son, honestly.
In a substantive way. And at the same time, where can you find some fun and playfulness? Where can you take some bets and say, it's not just about the brand. When I think about investments, it's about the founder as well.
She really does have an obsession with trying to make as much money as possible and piggybacking off people who I think are much more successful than she is.
Really need to believe in the people that are driving
so
that.
Important.
It's so important. You know,
and that's why you should invest in Meghan, because she's not going to drive anything.
Now, when I watched your episode of Shark Tank, and it's really like that critical thinking that has to come in when you are talking about real capital that you're going to put up for someone else's dream. You have to entrust that they are going to bring that dream to reality responsibly.
Yeah. Meghan's not going to do that. Meghan's not going to do that. All right, guys. So we have gone long enough. That is it for this version of the Insane Asylum. So let me know what you think of Megalomaniac Meg. I'd love to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Bye.